In this edition on Narendra Modi's visit, I am joined by Narendra Gupta, co-chair, India-US Community of West Coast, Mr. Rangaswamy, founder, India Spora, Geeta, founder, Luminex, and Anand Babu, co-founder, Minyo. Let me begin with you. What sort of expectations do you have from Indian Prime Minister?
Karthik ji, we have pretty high expectations. He has set a big agenda for India on digital India and so on. And he believes that innovation is the only way to get there. And we believe that he will come here and get people engaged in that innovation agenda.
You know, Prime Minister has spoken about the word startup. Not many Prime Ministers have done that in the past. Do you believe that when you talk about startup, it might all end up in atmospherics, not in tangibles, because ultimately startup needs to take place in India, right, not in Silicon Valley, because Silicon Valley has seen its own revolution.
Right. Keep in mind, we have 250,000 Indian Americans here who already are building bridges to India. So I think what he's going to bring here is the sense of excitement that gets us to the next stage. It's already, there's a bridge between the two places, right? What he's going to do is be a catalyst to get it even stronger. So I think he's doing the right thing.
What is the one opportunity and one challenge which faces our Prime Minister?
I think one opportunity is, I actually approve of him using the word startup, because it indicates that we have an established system, and now we are going to overhaul that and start up from the ground and rebuild some of the things that are broken and keep the stuff that works for us in terms of culture and compassion and our Indian identity. In terms of challenges, I think what I just listed are also the challenges, right?
Is it possible to create another Silicon Valley in India? Will it remain in the realm of a dream, or is it a possibility which can materialize itself?
Great people to create, right? First, it's all people, and next is the infrastructure. The day when poor man can get access to high-speed internet and technology, that's when people like us can go make technology useful for common man.
There are multiple discourses on the way our economy should go. One discourse is that it should be manufacturing-based, whereby new jobs are created at a certain segment. Now, another approach is that it should be an economy of knowledge. And in that economy of knowledge, it should have an appetite for risk, which the Silicon Valley has displayed. So I am saying, which is the right path?
I would say knowledge. If you look at the natural resources we have, right, the greatest natural resource we have is human brain. And investing in that, which means making everyone educated and prosperous, it's both men and women, poor, rich, everyone.
I want to add that the opportunities are actually in both areas. And we are talking about manufacturing of the future, not the manufacturing of the past.
He's saying that it can be a blend. It can be a marriage, if I'm... he says it can be a marriage. But the marriage also needs a fertile social and political base. So I'll ask you a political question here. In context of GST not being passed, issues with land bill, the labor reforms, how do you think India can move forward in terms of investments?
Right. And that's where I think the tech sector comes into play. We are creating manufacturing in a different way with technology, right? It's intellectual property. And a lot of the questions you raise about GST and land reform doesn't have anything to do with starting a tech company which runs everything in the cloud, right? You don't even need a computer. You can start a tech company using your mobile phone, right? So I think we can move faster with technology companies coming to India and investing in India as opposed to the manufacturing companies. So I think I agree with Narendra in that both need to happen, but I think tech will take off faster and faster than the manufacturing side of it.
How do you do that?
It's the bridge we've already built between the U.S. and India. Where we're sitting here is Sand Hill Road, right? This is where every company in the United States and Silicon Valley gets funded. So this is the capital that's also going to India as we speak. Narendra and other people have invested in hundreds of companies in India, and we'll probably invest in thousands more companies in India. They're tech-oriented. And we don't need land reform. We don't need GST. We just need ease of doing business.
Well, I think there are two parts to it. One is, money is easy to bring to India. The capability and expertise is the harder part. And with that will also come the ease of doing business. I think the government has to understand that both technology, money, and expertise are fungible. They will go to the best place in the world.
In terms of difficulties which the business encounters in India?
Yes. So let's just talk about getting liquidity. What do we do when the companies grow up? They can go public or we can sell a company. Going public in India is very difficult. The SEBI regulations are very complicated. 3 years of profitability and things like that. And if you sell a company, there's a question of capital gains, which there is no clarity around capital gains. I think if there is a clarity, even if we were paid some capital gains taxes, that would be great. So it's an issue about in terms of how do we get liquidity. In terms of running companies, we have to fill our companies in India, even small ones, face the same regulation as large companies. And the director's liability in India is unlimited.
Do you think that liability in terms of business should be redefined?
I think it should be, and most importantly, it prevents good expertise from coming into India.
Apart from the paperwork infrastructure, this is actually a big problem, right? For us to build great companies, IPO is the dream, right? No one wants to build a company that just position for acquisition. When you have small dreams, it doesn't happen. But going IPO, if it becomes all these regulations, I actually like regulations. There are certain things that government has to control, but it should not come in the way. It should actually help us go towards IPO, right?
I came across a number of entrepreneurs who felt that the ground was not fertile enough for them to incubate their ideas. Do you think that it's also because of the fact that the sort of academic freedom which we see here, the university system, that's not there in India?
So I grew up in South India, and I grew up on a farm. So I come from a kind of like, lower middle class kind of background. The fact that I even got good education is a miracle. So I wouldn't 100% agree with you that we had, about the education. So I went to JNTU Anantapur College, and I got chemical engineering degree. The curriculum is well designed. We've studied some of the difficult courses like heat transfer, material operations. I can still think of some of those equations, and I don't remember them, and I have no idea how I solved them back then. But all I remember was we had a good curriculum, good set of teachers. But one thing that is lacking is focus on critical thinking.
We build our own Stanford in India. Is it possible?
I think it is, and some people are attempting to do it. I think it's a matter of a new model of education. I think there's a new university now in Delhi called Ashoka University that's becoming a very good liberal arts university. So people are bringing new thinking, and if you look at those schools, many of them are getting the professors from the U.S. The curriculum is coming from the U.S. The physical infrastructure of Ashoka University looks like the U.S., and the professors are coming from the U.S. So I think you need to bring that kind of thinking, and the government needs to open that up a little bit more by letting American universities and other universities set up shop in India. It's still not there. You cannot set up shop. So I think that's one way to liberalize India in a sense of the education system itself.
Do you agree with him?
I have to say that India has great universities. The IITs, they have produced great leaders. Whether it's CEO of Microsoft or Google, they came from IITs. So, and some of us came from IITs as well.
Even chief ministers in Delhi have,
That's right, and including our Reserve Bank chairman came from IIT. So we have great universities in India. Yes, there can be more open thinking and liberal thinking there, but we have very few universities like that. We have maybe 10 or 12 IITs now and 3 or 4 IIMs. We need to make that kind of education available to the common man. We need to have 100 of those. The good thing about the US, yes, we have Stanfords and Caltechs and Berkeley and so on, but we have 50 of them. And the next 200 are not that bad. They still allow for free thinking. Because it is a situation where everybody should have access to this kind of a learning, like Geeta was talking about. We need to make it broader. And the only way it's going to happen, as MR said, is through government getting out of the way to a certain extent. They need to provide the basic foundation, but they should get out of the way.
Do you agree with him? Because when I spoke about Stanford, I spoke about an idea, not a university.
Even if it is an idea like Stanford, is it even necessary? Right? I think I believe that education needs a reform all the way, starting from kindergarten. You have to make kids ask questions and be curious, right? It's about questions. They will find answers. Today we have technology to find answers. I I don't know if it is necessary to create another Stanford. I actually see that what makes Indians special is we thrive in chaos. We are very resilient. We are multicultural. We accommodate, right, people.
Resilient without having an appetite for risk.
That yes, yeah. But if you see all the startup entrepreneurs, the guys, the rebels and misfits of Indian education system, they leave, they travel abroad, and then they become very successful, right? I think the rest of them are kind of groomed, tamed to let that go. Kids are born naturally with that talent, right? But instead, you have to become a doctor. You have to become a engineer. If you cannot become a doctor, then you have to become a computer engineer. I think that idea has to go, right? If you want to become a poet, you want to become an artist, right? Go live your dreams. Let everyone learn mathematics. Let everyone learn art, right? Like I regret now that I did not learn a musical instrument in my school, right? And this skill is not just about like learning to play music or to participate in a movie. When I build a product, right, it can be a technology product, but I see that as an art form. Right? That's how you create beautiful products. And that is not taught in school.
The political will actually matters here too. For example, they were talking about ideas versus manufacturing economy. If you think about economics in a macro perspective, economy is what we want it to be. So India, in its exciting growth phase, it can decide tomorrow, hey, let's make all of our government buildings solar energy buildings, right? So you can make radical decisions like that in talking about startup, running the government as a startup. So sometimes that top-down, trickle-down sort of seeps into the society's psyche, too.
Prime Minister has also spoken about digital economy, net. Do you really think that this idea can transform lives of millions of poor Indians? And how can Silicon Valley, successful people like you, can actually contribute in this process?
I think this Digital India and the Digital Economy Initiative is going to be the most transformative thing that can happen to India in the next 20 years. Just think of this. Instead of highways, you have a digital highway, right? Fiber connecting villages and cities. You have new applications. You have new business models. I think you're going to create millions of entrepreneurs, you know, with the mobile phone starting a business. I believe that what the Prime Minister is going to do with this initiative could be the most transformative thing that happens to India in the next 20 years. Absolutely.
Right. A few years before, my mother with a Nokia phone, she could not read an SMS message, right? It was quite complicated, and the UI was pathetic, right? Today, she is expert in Facebook. She's on the internet all the time, and I have to learn how to use Facebook. She even logs into my account, and then she's that much, right? But it's not about just Facebook and stuff, right? Now, communication, I see, is the backbone of the country. Now, ideas flow freely. Now, new businesses we can create. So that's what investors and entrepreneurs can do. If Modi creates this foundation, we can build ideas and greater technology. Take technology and make common man use that, right? Now people can take, so just WhatsApp, right? My friends get upset at me that I don't have a WhatsApp account. They are from India, and it's like a social security number. I need to have a WhatsApp account, and most of it is junk communication. But now you see people send transactions through it.
I have a counter question. My counter question is, most of the technologies or the new technologies which are coming are very mobile platform based. And correct me if I am wrong. Very data centric in terms of 3G, 4G. And we are talking about a digital revolution, again, which will be about mobile platforms. Now, how does it succeed when millions of poor cannot afford a mobile phone, leave alone a data phone or a smartphone? And how does it really uplift them out of the poverty when they don't even have the means to afford it, not the set, even the additional things with it, which is data charge and a monthly cycle? How does that happen? I'll come to you, Geeta.
I'm even okay if government taxes me and taxes everyone, makes internet free. The wealth that will be created by having a cheap, affordable communication and infrastructure, that wealth will pay for all of it, right? Government will eventually make up all the money, right? But everyone's life will be touched with that.
No, because my question was that how does it happen? I really want to know as an individual, a journalist, how does it happen? Can you tell me?
So first, I think I will counter your notion that it's a luxury, which is, high cost. Yesterday, I was at a panel discussion.
What I meant was affordability, not luxury.
Right. Okay, affordability. So yesterday I was at a talk in San Francisco. There was a panel discussing homelessness in San Francisco. And one of the persons there was saying that homeless person requesting for a smartphone is sneered upon. We think, why do you need an iPhone? But if you think about it, the woman who just lost a job and in between jobs, if she doesn't have a smartphone, she can't browse the net because she lost her home and everything else. So I think we are coming to view technology as part of our basic human right. And how do we get there, I think, is what he talked about. As a government, truly investing in digital infrastructure, making internet highway for free. But when it comes to device cost, trust me, when 1.2 billion people want Apple iPhone, the cost will drop. So how you make it available, I think there's got to be a digital highway. That's for free. But device cost, I think the private sector will work itself out.
If India has to become a knowledge super economy, where is the highway, and how can that highway be built? Starting from you, Geeta, and then we'll finish it with Devin.
So I would say more than knowledge, I would advocate for intellect. And the reason being, knowledge, the way I define it, is anything that's out there to know, you have to know. But intellect is something that we're generating as a value proposition from our own minds. And I think India has historically proven that we're very intellectual people. And we have, our writings and inventions, we have to prove it. But what we really have to overcome is this averse to risk. I think that if we change that fundamentally about our thinking process, we'll get there.
Mr. Swami?
So I think a couple of things. I think the government needs to facilitate a clean infrastructure, like everybody here has said, have the highway. And second thing is take from Silicon Valley what the essence is. And I think Silicon Valley is a state of mind. It's not a place. So I think India will become if India adopts that, it'll become a state of mind. The opportunities are limitless. People will just figure out the new disruptions, new innovations. And so I think that's what will result at the end.
Okay. Mr. Gupta?
I'm going to say, that Mr. Modi, what I like about him is that he is running the government as a startup and focusing on performance. So I believe that he understands that you create the right groundwork and things will happen. And I think that's really what he's focused on. Make the government more efficient, provide open educational opportunities for everybody, create the basic infrastructure, digital cities we talked about, renewable energy and so on. And I believe India has infinite potential.
I have a counter question, you can answer me. These are good concepts, but how do you ensure that they materialize? For example, the Prime Minister has spoken about 100 new smart cities. But the fact of the matter is you need land. You need labor. You need people to participate in it and celebrate the idea of a smart city. But if it doesn't happen, then how do you do that?
And I think that's what I mean by a startup person, is that startups solve difficult problems. They look impossible to solve when you start with them. But once you say, you set the goals, and you say, I'm going to create the groundwork, those things happen. I can't tell you how we go from A to B, but we will. Once you have the goal. They started exactly. So the question is, if we get one smart city, 100 will happen in the next 3 years. The question is, how do we get from 0 to 1? And he's working on that. I would say the challenges are infinite in India. They're massive challenges. But that's really what makes life so interesting. That's what makes me get up every morning and say, I got to do something because I can really make a difference.
Okay. Yeah. You tell me. We'll finish this roundtable with your argument.
On this question? Yes. I like the idea of how Narendra says that it's a startup idea.
How do we build India into a super knowledge economy?
I want to resonate on that idea of India as seen as a startup, right? This whole problem is a startup. In startup, when we take on a challenge, right, and the first thing that investors will ask you is, there are so many others doing it and they are doing it so much better. And you are starting late and you don't have anything to defend, right? But that's our strength. Starting late actually means that you can now bring fresh ideas and you can think very differently.
You can learn from others.
Yes, you can learn from others, and this time you can apply common sense and solve the same problems without any baggage, right? India starting late now means that we can bring fresh ideas, and when we are done, we now have better infrastructure, technology, and medium to create this. If we start now, in 5 years, we will actually end up ahead of the rest of them, right? That's what startup does.
Okay, and so that was our roundtable, and we spoke with a number of entrepreneurs, achievers more than entrepreneurs, and all of them were of the view that, yes, Narendra Modi's visit to Silicon Valley can really make a difference, and can really make a difference to millions of Indians if there is a connection, if there is transparency, and if there is a will, political, which matters a lot. And that will ultimately create a fertile ground whereby India can indeed turn itself into a knowledge-based economy.